The mess at home isn't just about the things you can see, it's about the invisible weight we carry every day. For years, I struggled with piles of items I never used, drawers that barely closed, and a constant fatigue I couldn't understand the source of. Then I realized it wasn't just my home that was overloaded, it was my mind. I remember the day I came home after a 12-hour shift and simply collapsed at the sight of the mountain of objects in the living room. Bills scattered everywhere, clothes piled up, gifts I kept out of obligation. At that moment, I understood that I needed a radical change. That's when I discovered a minimalist lifestyle inspired by Japanese traditions. Not a passing trend, but a life philosophy that transforms spaces and hearts. Today, I want to share how this transformation completely changed my home and my relationship with the objects I choose to keep around me. The first step of this journey was the hardest, admitting that many of the things I kept served no real purpose. I started by observing how I felt entering each room of my house. The bedroom, which should be a sanctuary, was crammed with clothes that no longer fit. The kitchen was filled with duplicate utensils that I never used. The bathroom was cluttered with nearly empty products that I kept just in case. So, I established a simple rule. If something wasn't useful in the present or didn't bring me true joy, it had to go. At first, it was terrifying. Each item carried a memory, a justification. What if I need this someday was the phrase I repeated to myself the most. But over time, I realized that this scarcity mindset only kept me trapped in a cycle of clutter. I started with the closet. I took everything out and piled it on the bed. The mountain of clothes shocked me. How could someone who always complained about having nothing to wear have so many pieces? I sorted them into 3 piles: keep, donate, and discard. To my surprise, more than 70% of my clothes no longer fit me, were worn out, or simply didn't match my current style. In the process, I discovered forgotten pieces that I truly loved and began wearing them more often. My closet ended up with less than half of what I had before, but each item now had a purpose. Choosing what to wear stopped being a stressful task every morning. In the kitchen, the challenge was even greater. Years of accumulating useful utensils created drawers that barely closed. Crumpled pans I kept out of attachment, incomplete silverware sets, party cups I never used again. By simplifying, I kept only the essentials: a good chef's knife, a quality cutting board, pots that I actually use, and enough plates and glasses for my family and a few guests. The results were immediate. Preparing meals became smoother, cleanup turned simpler, and finding anything no longer felt like a treasure hunt. When each item has its designated place, the routine flows more naturally. The bathroom, which once overflowed with half-used products, empty bottles and worn towels, now feels airy. I kept only the items that I truly used daily, a few extra options for special occasions, and towels in good condition. Cleaning became much easier with fewer objects to move around. The living room, which used to be a dumping ground for everything without a proper place, is now a true gathering space. Books I would never read again were donated. Accumulated decorations without rhyme or reason were replaced with a few pieces that truly mean something to me. Cables and electronic equipment were organized, and the unnecessary ones were eliminated. The most surprising thing was realizing how this process of simplification brought clarity to other aspects of my life. I started applying the same principles to my finances. Did I really need to spend money on more things? The answer was almost always no. I began to evaluate each potential purchase with simple questions. Does this solve a real problem? Will it bring lasting value to my life? Do I have adequate space for this? If the answer was no to any of these questions, I would postpone the purchase. Most of the time, the impulse would pass, and I would realize I had avoided bringing home yet another unnecessary item. This approach led me to value quality over quantity. Instead of buying several cheap items that would break or lose their usefulness quickly, I began to invest in fewer, higher quality pieces that would last for years. The result was not only a more organized home, but also significant savings over time. Another transformative aspect was establishing simple maintenance routines. I dedicate 15 minutes every night to put everything in its place before going to bed. When I wake up in the morning, I am not greeted by a disorganized house, but by a space that energizes me to start the day well. Once a week, I do a quick evaluation of each room and remove any clutter that has accumulated. With each change of season, I review my clothes and belongings to ensure they still serve the current purpose of my life. These small, regular practices eliminate the need for exhausting deep cleanings and maintain balance in the home. What impressed me the most was how simplicity in the physical space created mental space. When I no longer spend energy searching for lost items or dealing with clutter, I have time and energy left for activities that truly matter. Reading a good book, chatting with friends, pursuing a hobby, or simply enjoying the silence. I also learned that letting go is a muscle that strengthens with use. At first, every decision to let something go was agonizing. Nowadays, I can assess more clearly what truly needs to remain in my life. The process becomes more natural and less emotionally charged. One practice I adopted is the one in, one out rule. For every new item I bring into my home, something has to go. This keeps me mindful of the flow of objects and prevents clutter from sneaking back in. It also helps me think twice before making each purchase. Another important discovery was realizing that organizing without prior reduction is just rearranging the mess. Often, we try to organize overcrowded drawers by buying more dividers and storage boxes when the real issue is the excess. First, we reduce to the essentials, and then we organize what remains. The path to a more peaceful home also involves establishing clear zones for different activities. Instead of allowing work to invade all spaces, I created a specific area for it. When I'm done, I put everything away and that space returns to serve another function. This creates healthy mental boundaries and prevents the feeling of work from spreading throughout the house. Clear surfaces are another key element for a sense of calm. Tables, counters, and dressers used to be magnets for all kinds of objects. Now, I keep these areas predominantly empty, with only a few essential or carefully chosen decorative items. The visual and practical impact of this change is immense. The spaces feel larger, cleaner, and more inviting. In my daily practice, I've learned the importance of having simple systems that work for my real routine, not for an idealized life. Digital files have replaced stacks of paper. Quick daily cleaning routines have eliminated the need for monumental deep cleaning on the weekends. Small baskets placed strategically collect items that need to be stored, and they are emptied regularly. One of the biggest challenges I faced on this journey was dealing with gifts. I felt guilty about considering getting rid of something someone had given me. Over time, I understood that the true gift was the gesture and thought behind it, not the physical object. I kept a few meaningful items, took photos of others to preserve the memory, and passed on the rest to people who would genuinely use them. I also needed to learn how to handle the emotional attachment to objects that represented unfulfilled dreams. The craft supplies for hobbies I never pursued, the technical books from courses I didn't finish, clothes in a size I hope to wear again. Keeping those items didn't bring me closer to my goals. It just constantly reminded me of what I hadn't achieved. Letting go of those objects was liberating and allowed me to focus on the present. Inherited family items were another challenge. Antique furniture, dish sets, decorative objects that carried stories from my ancestors. I learned that I can honor their memory without turning my home into a museum. I kept a few truly special pieces, documented others with photos and written stories, and found new homes for the rest, where they would be appreciated and used. The transformation of our spaces brought unexpected benefits to our relationships at home. With less time spent managing things, we were able to focus more on each other. Discussions about clutter have drastically decreased. Visits from friends have become more frequent since we no longer had to tidy everything up before hosting someone. Another interesting aspect was how this approach influenced my eating habits. With a more functional and organized kitchen, preparing meals at home became more practical and enjoyable. I reduced food waste because I could clearly see what I had in the fridge and in the cabinets. Impulse buying at the supermarket decreased as I started to plan my meals better. Sleep also improved significantly. A bedroom free of visual distractions and piles of clothes on chairs or at the foot of the bed created a sanctuary for rest. I removed the television and electronic devices from the room, transforming it into a space dedicated solely to relaxation and sleep. The constant practice of detachment and simplicity spilled over into my media and information consumption. Just as I had reduced physical objects, I became more selective about what I allowed into my mind. I spent less time on social media, turned off notifications, and engaged in more intentional news consumption, all of which contributed to a sense of mental space that complemented the physical space I had created at home. I also noticed that the cycles of tidying up became much quicker. When we have fewer things, each item can have its designated place. When everything has a place, putting it away becomes automatic. And when putting things away is simple, resistance to maintaining organization decreases significantly. Cleaning has also become easier and faster. Dust-free surfaces can be cleaned in seconds. Fewer objects mean less accumulated dust and fewer items to move during cleaning. The time I used to dedicate to deep cleaning has been cut in half, freeing up precious hours for more meaningful activities. One of the most valuable discoveries was understanding that creating empty spaces is not wasteful, it's necessary. The emptiness doesn't have to be filled immediately. In fact, these breathing spaces are essential for well-being. A half-empty closet is not inefficient, it's functional and allows you to see and access everything easily. A shelf with some empty spaces creates visual balance and allows truly special items to stand out. I learned to recognize and resist the vicious cycle of consumption. Advertising makes us believe that we need more things to be happy, organized, or successful. We buy more, our homes become fuller. We purchase organizing products to deal with the excess, and the cycle continues. Breaking this pattern is liberating both for home space and personal finances. One strategy that has worked very well is what I call the waiting area. When I feel the urge to buy something non-essential, I add the item to a list and set a waiting period, usually 30 days. If after that time I still feel the item will add value to my life, I reconsider the purchase. Most of the time, the desire passes, saving me money and space. Another transformative habit has been establishing seasonal rhythms for the home. In the spring, I focus on deeper cleaning and renewing spaces. In the summer, I simplify even further to create fresh, airy environments. In the fall, I prepare the home for spending more time indoors, ensuring comfort and coziness. In the winter, I take stock of the year and plan improvements for the next cycle. Maintaining balance requires constant vigilance. It's easy to fall back into old habits, especially during periods of stress or significant change. When I notice that my spaces are starting to feel cluttered again, I pause and reassess. A few times a year, I dedicate a whole weekend to reset the house and return to the basics. One of the greatest joys of this journey has been rediscovering the value of each item I chose to keep. When we live surrounded by mountains of things, it's impossible to truly appreciate each one of them. With fewer items vying for attention, I've come to value my favorite morning coffee mug, the soft blanket for cold nights, and the special book I reread every year even more. My relationship with shopping has also completely changed. Now, when I need to buy something, I do my research considering durability, versatility, and environmental impact. I prefer to wait longer and invest in a quality item that will last for years, rather than satisfy an immediate impulse with something that will soon need to be replaced. One of the most interesting aspects of this transformation has been how it has affected my relationship with time. When we spend less time searching for lost items, cleaning up excess, or constantly reorganizing, we find that there are more hours in the day than we imagined. This extra time can be invested in relationships, self-care, learning, or simply in genuine rest. I've started to realize how the culture of constant consumption had convinced me that I needed external solutions for internal problems. Stress at work, a new outfit would help. Dissatisfaction with my appearance, more beauty products would solve it. Boredom, a new home decor would take care of that. By breaking this cycle, I've learned to address these issues in a more direct and effective manner. The simplicity in my surroundings has also brought a sense of control over my life that I hadn't experienced before. In a world full of uncertainties and elements beyond our reach, our home is one of the few places where we truly have the power to make decisions. Creating an environment that intentionally reflects our current values and needs is a powerful form of self-care. Over time, I developed some principles that guide my decisions about what comes into and stays in my home. First, real utility in the present, not in some hypothetical future. Second, authentic beauty that resonates with my personal aesthetic values, not fleeting trends. Third, durability and quality that will stand the test of time. And finally, genuine meaning, a true emotional connection to the item. One of the biggest surprises was discovering that the further I progressed on this journey, the less I missed the items I had let go. In fact, I could barely remember what I had parted with. This proved to me that many of the objects we accumulate occupy more mental space than they truly deserve. The simplified home also became more adaptable to the different phases of life. When new interests arise, there's room to accommodate them. When needs change, it's easier to reorganize and reconfigure the spaces. This flexibility is particularly valuable during times of transition, such as career changes, the arrival of a new family member, or adjusting to a new life stage. One of the biggest myths I deconstructed was the idea that one day this will be useful. For years I held on to items under that premise, only to discover that when the need finally arose, if it ever did, the item was damaged, outdated, or I couldn't even remember where I had stored it. I learned that for most unforeseen situations, makeshift solutions or new specific purchases work better than trying to predict every possible future need. Another revealing aspect was realizing how my attachment to certain objects was, in fact, an attachment to an idealized version of myself. The clothes that would fit when I lost weight, the hobby equipment that would be useful when I had time, the books I would read when I was more focused. Accepting who I am now, with my current interests and realities, allowed me to let go of these burdens and live more fully in the present. The transformation of my home reflected and catalyzed an internal transformation. I began to question not only what I wanted to have, but also who I wanted to be and how I wanted to live. I realized that many of my past choices had been influenced by external pressures, social comparisons, and ideals imposed by the media. Simplicity brought me back to what I truly valued. One of the most effective practices I adopted was what I call constant editing. Instead of large occasional purges, I integrated the habit of regularly assessing what no longer served me and gently removing it into my routine. A piece of clothing I didn't wear last season, a kitchen utensil that was forgotten at the back of the drawer, a beauty product that isn't part of my current routine. These small regular removals maintain a healthy flow and prevent accumulation. Over time, I developed a keener eye for identifying visual noise, those small excesses that individually seem harmless but collectively create a sense of clutter. Too many magnets on the fridge, products on display on the bathroom counter, papers piling up at the entrance of the house. Removing these elements brought a visual clarity that translates into mental clarity. I also learned that true organization isn't about hiding clutter in pretty cabinets, but about reducing to the point where organization becomes almost unnecessary. When we have only what we use and love, and each item has its designated place, maintaining order becomes almost automatic. One of the most unexpected benefits was how this approach helped me face challenging moments with greater resilience. When we go through periods of stress, illness, or significant loss, a simplified and organized environment provides the quiet support we need. Not having to deal with physical chaos frees up emotional energy to process the real challenges. The journey towards a more peaceful home also taught me about the importance of daily rituals. Small acts of caring for my space became anchors in my day. The ritual of making the bed in the morning, the habit of cleaning the kitchen after each meal, the moment of turning off the lights and checking that everything is in order before going to sleep. These micro-rituals bring a sense of control and closure to each day. I've also realized how important it is to adapt the principles of simplicity to my unique personality and lifestyle, instead of rigidly following preset rules. Some people thrive with completely empty surfaces, while others feel more comfortable with a few cherished items in view. The goal is not to create a sterile showroom, but rather a functional home that supports our best selves. One of the deeper discoveries was understanding that a home is not just a container for our possessions, but an extension of ourselves. Every choice we make about what we keep in our most intimate space reflects and influences who we are. By consciously simplifying this space, we also clarify our identity and purpose. The path to a more tranquil home is not linear, and accepting occasional setbacks has become part of the journey. There are times when organization slips, moments when clutter creeps back in stealthily. I've learned not to judge myself during these times, but to see them as opportunities to reassess what is working and what needs adjustment. This journey has taught me that true minimalism isn't about deprivation or austerity, but about a different kind of abundance. Abundance of space, time, attention, and peace. It's about removing the excess so that the essentials can shine. It's about creating space to breathe, to grow, and to truly live. Today, when I come home after a long day, I feel an immediate sense of relief and welcome. The open and organized spaces embrace me like a silent hug. There are no piles of unfinished tasks staring at me, no chaos demanding my already depleted energy. Instead, there is calm order, simple beauty, and the precious feeling that this space exists to support me, not overwhelm me. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey of small, consistent steps, daily choices, and constant re-evaluations. But each step brings us closer to a home that nurtures instead of drains, that inspires instead of oppresses, that reflects our deepest values and supports our most cherished dreams. The true test of this philosophy came when I faced major life changes, a new career phase, shifts in family dynamics, health challenges. It was in those moments that I realized the real value of a simplified home. The clarity in my spaces provided me with the mental clarity to navigate turbulent waters. The absence of physical chaos gave me the strength to deal with the inevitable emotional chaos that comes with significant transitions. If you're at the beginning of this journey, know that every small choice matters. Each item you consciously decide to keep or let go of is a brick in the foundation of a more intentional life. Start small, a drawer, a shelf, a corner of the house. Celebrate the progress, no matter how small it seems. Over time, these little pockets of order will expand and connect, gradually transforming your entire home and, by extension, your whole life. Share this blessed video so it can touch and help others like you and me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being part of our faith community. If you'd like to support our channel a little more, consider becoming a member of our channel. I'm leaving 2 more videos here for you to continue your search. Thank you and may God bless you all. See you soon.